they would play a map like Busan, like Nepal. But Weibo Gaming, Ilios is absolutely 100% the most obvious choice for them here. And now it's just a matter of how hard do you want to commit to winning this map pick. Can you win Ilios without that Diva ban onto Siad? That would be a huge boon. But if you can apply that Diva ban onto Siad, you know, protect for Qadsiah as well, that should give them the most optimal conditions possible to start off this series with a 1-0.
It's tough because you may want to save that Diva ban for later. Looking at the rest of the map pool, it is going to be really valuable if you feel like that is the final test or the final part way that you could actually get a win in the series. Might be that last bastion of hope. But as we start out on Ilios, I think that's a great point. Will we see Qadsiah try to lock into something like a Winston or a Wrecking Ball? Since we've already seen the Winston come out from Junbin and Crazy Raccoon series at the start of the day, I think that Winston isn't as dead in the water as people think it might have been, just because of all of these other buffs that we've seen to the tanks.
Yeah, I think for a couple of these teams in this tournament, the Winston is still like very much a comfort pick. And I think on maps like Ilios, Dorado, you can definitely make it work. I would say that Winston is more of a niche hero as we see the Diva ban come through. And because you've now picked Ilios, which is a huge advantage as the #1 seed, and you've also applied the Diva ban already, I feel like the rest of the series is going to hinge upon if Weibo Gaming can get away with a map win here.
And I think it's going to be tough because, as we saw as a response ban, it's going to be a ban of the Tracer. That might put Leave in a really tricky situation. I don't think that Leave's Tracer has been particularly consistent as I've watched OWCS China for stage #3. So I think that there are some things that Leave is going to have to work on for this particular tournament, and we also need to see if Leave can actually play flexibly when the Tracer is banned.
Yeah, I mean, this is the former Overwatch League MVP player we're talking about in Leave. 2021 season, I believe, if my memory serves me right. 4 years ago now at this point. But part of what earned Leave that MVP award in 2021 was the flexibility. Because we know that Leave has a fantastic Tracer. Back then, he showed off his Echo, the Genji, I believe even the Hanzo at times, because obviously he and Shai didn't really pair up back then already for Chengdu Hunters. But that's when we really saw the flexibility come out from Leave. And so in a matchup like this with the Tracer ban, this is another perfect meta, theoretically, for Leave, when he should be able to flex his muscles and adapt to whatever Alcatia is playing. Still, though, the Venture is maybe a little bit much to ask for here on Ilios, because you can get kind of exposed because the sight lines are so wide on this map. But seeing something like a Genji, like an Echo, those would still be very good heroes against what Alcatia should play.
So I hope that with these hero bans, Weibo can find a way to actually take a map off of Alcatia. Maybe that gives them some confidence heading into the rest of the series. And it hinges on being able to beat Alcatia with this Diva now unavailable to them. As we've talked about before, Ziad has a couple of other tanks in the wheelhouse. Diva, by far the best hero, but there's still a fantastic Ramatra and Zarya. I wonder which one they will end up going with for Ilios.
I could actually see both teams attempting the Hazard here as well, because if you are Weibo Gaming, obviously the Hazard wall is going to be very effective at shutting down a potential Symmetra teleporter. There are a couple of maps here, if you really want to force the Symmetra, you can. But I think one of the issues with Alcatia is that obviously Checkmate is both their Tracer player and their Symmetra player. And so if you commit to something like a Symmetra hit scan lineup on a map like this, you're not really controlling any angles, and that makes it easier for Weibo Gaming to deal with the Symmetra in the first place. We've seen teams like Falcons, for example. They're happy to play the Symmetra here if Proper can also play the Tracer, because then Proper is at least able to control one of those flanks and make it less easier for the enemy team to deal with the Symmetra. So we'll have to see what Alcatia are cooking up on this one. Maybe you just want to play this long sidelines with a hit scan. We're yet to see here.
And if you don't end up playing the Symmetra, then there is an opportunity for you to see the rest of Checkmate's hero pool. I mean, a fantastic Echo also just can basically play any of the flex DPS under the sun. And so I think there's a lot of tools at Alcatia's disposal when it comes down to Checkmate in that flex DPS position. But as we see these teams in spawn, we are going to see right now Weibo hovering over the Winston for Qadsiah, and it is going to be Checkmate on the Echo, and we'll see if Labda actually keeps the Symmetra here or does swap and just use it as a teleporter, and that is the case.
Yeah, and this is the composition we've seen EMEA teams play in the past whenever Tracer does get banned. And it comes back to the mobility of a composition like Echo and Freya. He's very dynamic already as Checkmate. Gets on top of Leave here, but already they're controlling about half of the map here, or Alcatia, because of the mobility of their damage players.
Yeah, you just have this Lucio. The speed is going to help you make it through this open territory just a little bit faster. And now it's going to be a battle for the Lighthouse. Shy is going to take the first blood onto Checkmate. That's going to keep one of those aerial units out of the sky so Leave can have free reign. As Guxue now pounces on the next target, Lab is going to be the next to fall. And while Alcatia did get control of the point first, members are falling fast enough that Weibo is going to take it back.
Yeah, and this Ashe is definitely a threat. Shy obviously getting a lot of pressure on top of him. As Guxue and Leave clean things up here, the backline dead, and Sia jumps off the map, and Weibo Gaming finally back in control of the point here. And if you are Alcatia here, obviously Shy needs to be target number one. With the Ashe buff, the increased range before the fall of damage, it is so much damage coming your way. Efficient at dealing with both the Echo and the Freya here. So Alcatia, they staged before this fight. You're gonna see them rotate around this left side and try to get a couple of pot shots onto Shy here to force him to perhaps drop down into the Lighthouse.
Taking this high ground control away from Shy is going to be really difficult. I feel like the only person you can really send up after him is either going to be Checkmate on the Echo himself or Kellex on the Lucio, maybe to just wall right around and get him to be pooped off. But as it's now going to be a fight under the Lighthouse, Shy was the first to fall. So Alcatia, they're able to at least clear that first objective. And now the rest of the work. Clean up Weibo Gaming through the Kitsune rush that they've laid down and take back the point from there.
Yeah, a little bit slow there, and actually Lamb is going to commit this Kitsune rush as well. So that's a really expensive ultimate, but perhaps needed here to secure the point cap in the end. Guxue does a great job stalling there, pops the Primal Rage, but does survive for a quick re-engage by Weibo Gaming coming up here shortly. So Guxue is going to take control of the Lighthouse high ground here, and Leave looking to flank around here. The duplicate coming in here from either Echoes are going to be pivotal.
Gonna just give a lot of sustain to the fight. And depending on what they end up choosing to duplicate, maybe that's going to be a bit of a difference maker. Is it going to be the tank or is it going to be a DPS just to give you a little bit more damage? First though, Tidal Blast from Mew. Going to be a quick pick onto Labda, and maybe they don't need much more than that, as Bob from Shy is going to help to give them an extra player advantage. And that is a quick team fight win for Weibo.
Yeah, and it feels so good as well to just win that fight using the damage ultimates, of course, but also, you know, there were quite a few committed there actually, with Wu Yang popping his as well. And so now Alcatia looking for a re-engage here. They have the Graviton Surge, they have a duplicate themselves, and maybe, you know, a quick duplicate onto the Winston here. You're able to, you know, put some pressure onto the hitscan players. Crucially, because you're playing this Qadsiah, you almost feel forced to rotate onto this point and play these close corners. Leave, gets a pick onto Labda though. And Weibo Gaming, they look like they're in control for now.
We're gonna see a duplicate onto the Kiriko, taking great use of this high ground just to be able to get those shurikens right down on top of Weibo's heads. You even get that duplicated Kitsune rush out to really clean up the fight, and Alcatia take it back with Weibo capturing 91%.
Yeah, 91% for Weibo Gaming, but Alcatia still doubles the Ford ultimate here. They have the Graviton Surge yet. This is a bit of a dry fight here for Weibo Gaming. So if you could get out both support ultimates here, that would be absolutely huge. But the time is against them. 70% for Alcatia. And the longer this staging goes on, it's looking like it's going to be the final fight of the round.
Monk may be able to throw this Kitsune rush in. At least you can match that of Landon, but other than that, Alcatia seems to have that economical advantage. To trade though, Shy is for Labda, as Landon and Kellex both let their support ultimates rip. Alcatia still maintain control of the point, and there haven't been any extra kills until Mew in this moment. Weibo still have this Kitsune rush so they can extend the fight.
Weibo?
Maybe they're able to do this as Guxue jumps down from the top rope. He's able to play on the rush and get another DPS down, as Yod is also going to be bullied off the point. With the focusing beam from Leave, Alcatia have no choice except to take that 99% and regroup for this next fight.
Yeah, and Weibo Gaming, they're actually going to push up here. Guxue has the Primal Rage as well. It's going to be very difficult for Alcatia to touch here in the first place. And Weibo Gaming putting the pressure on. Checkmate with the final touch here. But this first round goes towards Weibo Gaming. And this is the start you need when you're committing the Diva ban onto the first map pick.
Which is a good sign. Weibo being able to take this round win, and especially being able to play so patient up until the very end, was looking a little bit tough. With that final fight, Alcatia had 4 ultimates ready to go, but just such good play to make sure that they were able to control that high ground, and then Weibo could strike when Iron was hot.
Yeah, it's been quite difficult for a lot of teams in recent history to just play the Lighthouse map if you don't match the verticality from a Winston. And we saw right there, yes, you can force the point, and when you put some pressure onto the point, you should theoretically have the advantage with the Zarya, right? But Weibo Gaming, they work around that. They work the angles instead. And Alcatia, they struggle to get across the finish line, and Weibo Gaming go up 1-0. As we look towards Ruins here now, and Weibo Gaming with the Ashe Echo we saw from SSG earlier here in the day. A lot of damage in this neutral fight. Let's see how Alcatia deal with this poke.
Lambda is going to be on the Sojourn, so it's going to give you some better access to those aerial units. Got Leave. You also need to worry about Shy on the high ground, and so maybe Lambda with a quick railgun charge will be able to take out one of those DPS players. But it's Leave, again, to strike first. Ziyad going down means that the front line is just not going to be there for Alcatia, and Weibo Gaming take first capture. Yeah, and it all boils down to the damage that Weibo Gaming were actually able to put out. Because a couple of members of Alcatia, they dropped low in health as they were making a push towards the point. The goal being for Alcatia, we want to secure the first point cap so that someone from Weibo Gaming has to step up. And when they do, that's where we're going to pounce with the benefit of the Lucio speed. But now in this fight, Weibo Gaming, they are the team that can sit back. Guxue going to abuse the rooftops here with the mobility from the Winston. But theoretically, they can just keep falling back here and force Alcatia to spend valuable resources as they approach the point. I mean, look at how much damage Shy has been able to do with the dynamites alone. The damage over time has made it easier for Weibo Gaming to actually secure picks onto Alcatia. But it's time now, as Alcatia has started to move closer. This is going to be a great teamfight win for them. Haven't needed to invest anything outside of just being able to get that damage down onto those pushier targets on Weibo. And Weibo have to give up the point. Yeah, actually quite surprised here how easy it was for Alcatia to walk up. You saw Weibo Gaming disengage, and perhaps they felt like, we just gotta commit to the point here, because if we give up the point cap, it's gonna take so much time for us to really set up the next engagement that favors us. So going into this next fight instead, Weibo Gaming, they're building a couple of ultimates here. I think they're going to take it slow. Landon might look for an early Kitsune rush here if available. And that's something that Monk cannot match at this current moment, but the Bob is also going to come out. So it's a trade right now. The Bob for Kellex. It's still going to be an even fight here for Alcatia as they invest even more. The Bola shot now coming out from Lambda. But does Weibo want to actually commit any more to this? They're actually being able to string some picks together off the back of Leave's Echo, duplicating the Zarya. Even let that final Graviton Surge rip, and it's a great teamfight win for Weibo and an expensive one for Alcatia. Yeah, they tried to drop the Kitsune Rush onto the point to maintain the position and the cap they had already. Keep the fight going their way when it comes to the momentum. But by that time, it was already too late. Weibo Gaming, they had already taken steps forward and were controlling the point. So Weibo Gaming, they capitalized on the damage ultimate. And now, a couple support ultimates in their favor as well. They should be able to clean up Ilios here, Rose. I think so. I mean, a Tidal Blast from you could just give someone in the front lines a little bit more staying power to actually go for the dive. But Checkmate is hoping to try to even the playing field with that duplicate, but it gets snipped out pretty immediately. Kellex' Downbearer comes in to save the day as Guxue goes for the Primal Rage to bat people around. But Alcatia have still gotten enough picks that they should be able to take back control from Weibo. Yeah, Alcatia still in the game here. Great Sound Barrier from Kellex. Getting a ton of value. As Ziyad has this Graviton Surge now, and you can make a pick. Do you want to use this in these closed corners before Weibo Gaming are able to set up the flanks? Or you're going to fall back, try to extend this fight and build Landon's Kitsune Rush, looking likely at the moment. But Weibo Gaming here, only really having the to go with, and Landon goes down before he's able to build the Kitsune Rush. This is Weibo Gaming's chance. That's huge. Ziyad has no choice except to let the Graviton Surge go and hope that's going to pull enough members of Weibo Gaming together to actually take them out. But Weibo, Lambda is going to have to be the player that comes up big. 2 picks already in this fight as Weibo speeds back the point underneath them. Lambda is having a hero performance right now as Ziyad comes back to save the day and takes out Guxue. That is another fight win for Alcatia, but the job's not done yet. They still need 30 more %. Wow, Lambda just
won the round there essentially for Alcatia. Lano's going to have this Kitsune Rush now. Weibo Gaming doesn't have the ultimates required. Leave going to build this duplicate. Unless he gets punished very early on here, they are trying to secure the kill. It's going to be a Kitsune duplicate actually, and with the added minor perk, should be able to get the Kitsune Rush going here if Leave can just stay alive for the moment. Alcatia putting the pressure onto Weibo Gaming here. Don't want to let them cap the point.
Would have been nice to have that utility, but Alcatia are playing so far forward that Weibo just don't have a chance to actually set up. And with how fast they were able to take that fight, Mew has to switch to Lucio to try to get the team back, but nobody can touch Alcatia. They set the pace, and they tie up the score here for Ilios.
Yeah, great early fight from Alcatia there. Just forcing the duplicate coming out from Leave there. That would have been great if you wanted some extra sustain to touch that point to proc the overtime. But Alcatia's pressure there just amazing and forced the error from Weibo Gaming really. But it comes back to Labda's 2 kills there. Weibo Gaming, they had an opening. They shut down Landon before he was able to build that Kitsune Rush. And that should have been Weibo Gaming's chance to close out the series. But Labda clutching up on the Freya. 2 picks, keeps them in the game, and Landon is able to drop the Kitsune Rush to close things out.
Absolutely. Labda looked a little quiet on the Sojourn at the start of Ilios Ruins, but then that pick over to the Freya, I felt like that was really where Labda came alive and was able to contribute a lot more to each of those fights. And so as we enter into, well, our final round on Ilios, it all comes down to this. Weibo sticking to their guns with this Winston, Ashe, and Echo, and Alcatia. They're going to have Labda start off on the Freya for this round.
Yeah, and actually, the sidelines are going to be slightly shorter for Shy here. Because Alcatia are playing the Freya and the Echo, they should have free pickings on this outside angle and going to secure a couple of these outside lanes. This is going to essentially set up a kill box for Weibo Gaming here, where Shy is going to be stuck in this cage area, not going to have a ton of vision. And you can see Alcatia, they're setting up for a bit of a dive here, trying to find an opening to punish this more static composition of Weibo.
It's going to be tough for Qadsiah to actually help control that territory as well. As you see, there is a trade already from the DPS, so Labda leaves both down. Checkmate, though, without that counterpart in the skies, is able to make great work of that. And so Alcatia do take first control. Qadsiah is still around, though, and while he sees Alcatia fighting over the point, he takes that lighthouse control.
Yeah, this is so difficult because of the Tracer ban from Alcatia. You're kind of forced to stick to this Echo for the minute, but you're not really able to clear out these lanes as efficiently for your Ashe. And that means that Alcatia, they're going to control so much of the map. If you're Weibo Gaming, how do you get in a position to get value from the Wu Yang poke, the Ashe poke? It's so hard to step up here.
I think you just have to pick a target or pick a corner and say that's going to be where we actually fight. But both Echoes are down, so it's an even 4v4 as this fight continues to extend in favor of Alcatia. The longer that you let this Zarya have time to actually build up charge, and the closer you can get to those members of Weibo, it could be something that the Zarya just absolutely steamrolls over. But for now, it's going to be a fight once again over the lighthouse as the Bola shot comes out. Members of Weibo do get bullied off of that high ground, but here's where the Kitsune Rush can continue to even things up as both get let ripped. Shy finds a dynamite pick onto Kellex, and now it's really about bullying this Zarya in the front lines before she can actually get that Graviton Surge to land. And so Weibo, that's enough. They are going to take back control.
Yeah, a lot of ultimates coming in from either team. They're trying to maintain position on the point. But I think you're seeing how difficult it is for Weibo Gaming to deal with the Zarya. Just able to stay alive on the point for so long. 56% for Qadsiah here. Obviously, a lot of invested ultimates from either team. But as Kellex gets closer to the sound barrier in this fight, they should be able to sweep over Weibo and do a bit of a coordinated push that should secure a fight win here. Graviton Surge as well. Checkmate going down. Big play from Leave, actually. And this is going to build a lot of valuable percentage for Weibo, who were behind at the start of this round.
Yeah, and I wonder if that means that Ziad is just going to hold on to the Graviton Surge. You can already see that Alcatia are trying to just take a step back, waiting for him to come back online.
Absolutely, as Qadsiah poking here in the front lines. Graviton Surge comes out, but it whiffs actually! Qadsiah going to be caught in it, but the Primal Rage, that's going to be enough sustainability to keep himself alive. Mew goes down to Labda here, so an opening for Alcatia if they want it. Sound Barrier could be used here to secure the rest of the fight, but no need. Checkmate, another pick onto Shy here. This should be Alcatia in full control here. Weibo's going to try to stall this out. Primal Rage popped from Qadsiah as well as Monk goes down. Graviton Surge from Leave in the duplicate. Finds a pick, they do, onto Labda. But Weibo Gaming look like they're behind in this one, unless
Qadsiah?
the Primal Blade in full force.
He's going up so big! So big, in fact, that Checkmate is going to help to dish back out a new one with the duplicate from the Echo onto that Winston, as Gushue baits him away to be able to jump back into the fray with the rest of the reinforcements from Weibo Gaming coming back. But Gushue, unfortunately, just doesn't have the sustain to deal with the rest of the members of Alcatia. So if they do get away with 85%, that's a lot of stall to have gotten from just the investment of the Primal Rage.
That's an insane amount of stall, actually. That fight should have been over way quicker for Alcatia, but instead, Weibo Gaming, great job just keeping control of the point in Gushue, making things difficult there with a couple of kills from the Primal Rage. Now, Mont needs to build this Kitsune Rush quick before Landon is able to drop it here aggressively and fight in these narrow choke points using Qadsiah.
I mean, the bullet shot first from Labda misses its mark, so that's not going to just be an instant pick to send Weibo Gaming reeling. Weibo now can set up to go in for something like the dive, but as Landon hits the Kitsune Rush, oh, Shy! The bomb comes out, but Shy gets taken out of the server! And now the rest of the picks might be coming through as Checkmate just has clear sight lines. Now with this Gushue getting stuck into the Graviton Surge, it's easy pickings. And unfortunately, Weibo, they don't end up winning out this final round of Ilios. And with that D.Va ban out of the way, that's going to be something we've got to talk about for the rest of the series.
Wow, that is absolutely brutal for Weibo Gaming, actually, considering how much they invested into this map. Like we talked about, the Ilios map pick should be a huge boon for them in being able to find a way to win this series, but Alcatia stealing this one, you have to say. It looked like, Weibo Gaming were going to come away with it on round 2, on Ruins.
Yeah.
Like they were going to secure that one and get away with the map win. But Alcatia, they bring it back, win Ilios, and now Weibo Gaming are just in a dark hole here, because what maps are you going to win on for the rest of the series? How do you get to 3?
It's going to be a really tough one, because maybe you just have to say we can win versus the D.Va. And at this point, you're going to have to, since you can't ban it out again.
You're going to have to, yeah.
Yeah, like, you don't really have another choice for that one. But I think, all across the board, this map still felt very, very close.
Oh.
99 to 100% on the first round of Ilios. Ruins was such a close affair. And then, of course, here, too, we just saw Weibo miss out on 15% of that final point.
Yeah, it got ridiculously close in the end. But Alcatia, they're a scrappy team. The way they were able to make that work. Really impressive performance from them. And I'm thinking about Weibo Gaming, where do you take them now? It has to be something like a Dorado pick, a map we haven't really seen as of yet. Because you just gotta keep playing these Winston compositions, I feel like.
Yeah, but the D.Va is so good on that map as well. So it's just really tough. Maybe we have to see this Weibo roster start to show us their brawl. Something that they've been working on the entirety of Stage 3 because this meta has really demanded it. And even though we kind of look at Weibo and we see, oh yeah, well definitely you're a dive team, they're going to have to show us that brawl and make it work for them to have more longevity in this tournament.
I think the problem is if you opt into the brawl, you're kind of accepting the Symmetra. Fair enough, you have a Symmetra ban in hand. So if you really wanted to go with brawl composition and ban out the Symmetra, sure, we can do that. Maybe you force the Yad over to the Zarya, or even the Ramatra if need be. So sure, that could be a way you could find a map win in this series if you are Weibo Gaming. But at the same time, I feel like most of their style in recent history has been, we want to pick the Symmetra compositions apart. We want to put Leave onto a hero-like Venture. We want to poke and prod and pick these close-knitted brawl compositions apart. And so matching them on that, that's just not going to happen. We'll have to see what they got cooked up.
I still think you're gonna have to. But maybe this is another one of those matchups you look at and you go, well, we know that Alcatia is gonna play this, so try to throw everything in the kitchen sink and try to answer it and see what's actually going to work, because you're gonna play against Alcatia with this look. You could potentially play against Twisted Minds and have to deal with the same thing. And then think about the other Korean teams that also have very strong brawl looks. Team Falcons is the first one that comes to mind. And we're going to go to Shambali Monastery as our next map in this series.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, actually, because I think Shambali Monastery, like we talked about, is a go-to map for a lot of teams. I wouldn't have said that it's a go-to map for a team like Weibo Gaming, because it caters to a lot of these brawl compositions with the Ramatra and such. Obviously, Alcatia, they did a fantastic job dealing with GK on this map yesterday when they played the Symmetra compositions. And so now if I'm Weibo Gaming, okay, can we beat a team like Alcatia on this map? maybe deploying that Symmetra ban in the first place. That could be a path to victory here. Leave, probably pretty comfortable in this map as well. You can play Adventure, Tracer, Echo on defense, because there is some accessible high ground and some verticality if wanted. So there's definitely a path for Weibo Gaming to win this map, but that has to start with the confidence of finding a way to deal with this Symmetra.
I think you're right about maybe just banning it out. Get it out of the way, then
that
at least
like
you don't have to deal with... I know it does, because you still probably have to deal with Ramatra. Unless this is a situation where Alcatia go, we could just ban it now. You're playing Shambali Monastery. You probably want to put Qadsiah on the Ramatra, so you might have to deal with another ban that's very disadvantageous to your team, like the Tracer ban in map 1.
Yeah, Alcatia, because they've been so reliant on this Symmetra, and I don't mean reliant in the fact that they always need to play the Symmetra, but it just wins them.
Strong.
Like, they just win series. So, like, if you're really good at Symmetra, like, why would you play anything else? But I think we saw them earlier on in the year that they actually did experiment with a lot of different compositions. You know, Landon was flexing around quite viciously on that flex support role. Like, we saw Ilaria at times from him.
Baptiste is amazing.
The Baptiste is amazing. And so I think that Alcatia, they have the flexibility required to play a lot of different stuff if need be. It just hasn't been the case for, I'd say, the past 6 months that they really have to play anything besides the Symmetra.
Yeah, I'd love to know if that's something that they've been working on in scrims or in their boot camp leading up to the OWCS World Finals. Because there's going to be teams that have played against it enough. Like, you got to imagine Crazy Raccoon and Team Falcons. They've studied the VODs, they've gone to the books, and they said, okay, we're gonna play Alcatia or Twisted Minds at some point, and we're gonna have to beat them. We can't let the mid-season championship happen again.
Yeah, I mean, a team like Falcons, the way they dominated Alcatia in a 4-0, it was just ridiculously stunning, right? And so I feel like they are probably really comfortable against compositions like that. But like I talked about on the desk, it's a bit of a trial test. Like, okay, because remember Virtus Pro in Stage 3? They couldn't deal with the Symmetra. And so, you know, a team like Twisted Minds, they're just like, okay, well, you're not able to beat the Symmetra compositions, and so we're just going to play it against you. But then Twisted Minds said, okay, against teams that know how to deal with the Symmetra, you know, Alcatia, they feel like Alcatia is the better sim team, then Twisted Minds are just going to flex away from it. So like, okay, if you know how to beat the Symmetra, then we're not going to play it. We're not even going to bother. But against teams that don't know how to play against Symmetra, it's incredibly potent. And so it's a bit of a gatekeeper composition that, all right, get through our Symmetra comp first, and if you can, we'll respect you and we'll flex away from it.
There's no Symmetra ban as we head into Shambali Monastery. It's going to be Sojourn and Brigitte. Now, we have seen a little bit of Brig, but I'm curious about that Sojourn pick. Maybe they really are just looking at Labda and saying that this is not the hero we want to play against with you.
Yeah, it's honestly a little bit surprising to see the Sojourn ban come out, because there are so many valuable bans in the first place, right? And I think, you know, a player like Labda, I don't think is too bothered by this. Like, just play Freya on Ilios.
Yeah.
Like, so we're happy to flex away from it. The one angle would be if you're going to, you know, play a tank composition, perhaps, that the Sojourn is able to build a lot of railgun charge on, because obviously that increases the value drastically of what a Sojourn is able to do. But I think in most cases, like the Sojourn, it's a great hero. Not sure it's worthy of a ban.
Both of these hero bans are kind of like, I'm not sure if these are the ones that I think I would have picked for this map in particular versus either of these teams, but no Ram ban and no Sim ban. So both of those heroes are on the board for both teams. And I think that really means that we might see Qadsiah go down this Ramatra route. I mean, Shambali Monastery has very classically been about Ram, and we've seen that already from our matches yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. I think the Brig ban is quite interesting, because I think you could make the case that, okay, Brig is really efficient, of course, at you know, protecting our backline, but also throwing out the repair packs for your flex DPS player. So if Leave wants to play something like an Echo, like a Tracer,
right,
really helpful in giving them additional resources to hold some of these flanks that are going to be really impactful on a map like Shambali. We often see when teams actually stage on this map, particularly if they're attacking like the first point, there are a lot of side angles, a lot of lanes that are really important to hold. And so if you're able to commit more resources to a flanker to help them clear those, that's going to be massively impactful for you. But otherwise, it is a bit of a coup. they're cooking with this one.
I think I just believe that there are a couple more bans that might have been a bit more valuable, but as I look back on what happened yesterday, Alcatia did play this Baptiste Lucio backline for their own Vermatra composition. So it's not something that we look at and go, well, the Brig ban is going to hurt them. So it very realistically could be something that they've seen from Weibo, or they definitely saw the Brig backline from Geeke yesterday in their match.
I mean, I don't see any reason why Alcatia shouldn't play what they played yesterday. When they played the Symmetra, the Lucio Bap, like, it worked wonders for them against GK. And until Weibo Gaming can prove that they can deal with a composition like that, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
So it all comes down to Weibo Gaming. Having the advantage of not playing yesterday, you were able to look at that match and look at what Alcatia are doing on this map, scout them and prepare a plan. And so we'll have to see what that plan is, what they got in store.
Yeah, I mean, Labda did play the Soldier, so at least that's one piece of the puzzle that's taken out, but then what actually comes in to replace that? Because I think that Labda has quite a
strong.
Yeah, like Cassidy would be great, especially with the Symmetra. We've seen some really tricky plays with teams going for high noons and actually teleporting the Cassidy around so that you can get a sight line. You can have one of those, like, level performances.
We head into Shambali Monastery here. The players just having a few extra minutes to prepare them, going into the second map here, making sure they're comfortable in our little player setup, right next to us, actually.
I know, it's funny because I was, when I'm like not here, I've been listening to all the comms from the players. Actually,
we can hear them right next to us, yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Everybody's so animated. It's just neat to be able to see them do their thing in their element.
Yeah, and I think we've heard a couple of players raise their voices, especially because I have no doubt that you can have noise-canceling headphones and to prevent any kind of advantage comes from listening to the other team and such. But if you make yourself really loud, if you scream when you win fights, that is going to penetrate any noise cancelling you have. And that is a bit of a mental factor we see in a lot of other esports that we don't get the chance to abuse that much in Overwatch. But it's definitely a factor, the fact that these teams are able to look at them as they're playing the match.
Right, like it's not even about the sound, but the fact that you can sit across from your opponent and actually see them maybe pumping their fist on top of their monitor, that could definitely do something to your confidence level. So, as we enter into map number 2, Weibo Gaming are on the attack, and they're going to stick to something that they've already tested. Except this time around, it's not Gushue on the Winston, it's going to be the Zarya. Maybe a bit of a better matchup into this Ziad Diva.
Yeah, 100%, and there's no real threat to you here either. Of course, you gotta take great care here if you are Gushue, because as soon as you pop your bubble cycle and you lose both of those Zarya bubbles, that is a huge opportunity for Alcatia to punish you. You see them pushing the card up here. Here comes the teleporter from Alcatia as we go for a bit of a rotation here. Weibo Gaming, you can already see how Monk and Leave actually, they're setting up this wide angle and trying to just make it difficult for Alcatia to walk up. They're going to teleport away here. You can see them clearing and finding Shy, lacking that mobility on the edge.
You need to get Ziad to use all of this defense matrix so you can actually try to deal with Labda. Playing this Diva is going to help enable this Cassidy a lot, just to be able to have that pocket, but Ziad is still finding picks. I mean, that's 3 in a row right now against Weibo, so that's going to be a great defense for Alcatia to kick things off.
I mean, they're literally just TPing onto the back line, and then they just keep walking. Like, they're playing goats with Symmetra Diva. It's essentially what they're doing, because they're TPing up.
What a throwback.
And then they're just like a wrecking ball coming through the map. And if you're not disengaging, if you're not dispersing away from this team, they are just going to take you down. It's absolutely menacing here. So Weibo Gaming, as they set up with this, now the Freya, you can see, trying to dodge the wrecking ball here. As Ziad just comes in with the Kitsune Rush from Landon. Shy, no chance, buddy.
I mean, Shy just tries to take to the skies and run and fly as fast as possible away from this Diva, but she's just so tanky. She also can strike really hard. And so when you notice that there's blood in the water, I mean, this Diva's gonna go after you. There's been no progress made here by Weibo, and they are stuck on this corner as the teleporter is creating this pit turn.
Oh, Leave. Sorry, buddy. Almost built a duplicate.
So close.
You pop the tidal blast here to try to get some survivability, but this is one-sided, bro.
It's very one-sided. I mean, Labda just gets free sight lines. When you have the protection of Ziad's Diva, it's very easy for you to be able to land your mark on people like Leave. Shy, if you go up into the sky, you're just a sitting duck.
Yeah, you are a sitting duck, but it's honestly like your best bet here. I'd say it's quite worrying that Qadsiah is barely able to walk up here. Oh my god.
Oh, the Jedi through the teleporter. And this duplicate has no staying power. Even though Leaf did duplicate that Diva, got demexed and out of duplicate almost instantly. Weibo right now, it feels like their only hope is try to get these ultimates out of Alcatia and then hopefully have more to bully their way through to capture this first checkpoint.
Yeah, this is absolutely disgusting. I mean, you have a Graviton Surge, but okay, you're playing against a Symmetra and a Diva, so how do you kind of guarantee value here? So hard if you're Weibo Gaming. All right, you got the Kitsune Rush here. Should be able to at least use that to secure some space as they try to round this very corner. But Lano's going to match it. They have the stun ready to go if need be here. Alcatia popping a lot of ultimates here with 30 seconds to go, Rose.
You can see a lot of the emphasis is on the Diva. Just try to get Ziad out of mech so that this defense matrix cannot eat the grab. But all the while, Alcatia are able to win this team fight off the back of just the rush and the photon barrier. They still get to hold on to the sound barrier for the most critical part, which is the final push from Weibo with the Graviton Surge.
Yeah, and I would just bully Qadsiah here. You have a defense matrix, just like run over the Zarya, sound barriers to go with here. Graviton Surge is actually going to come off. Ziad eats the Bola shot that would have combined so nicely with the Graviton Surge. But with Qadsiah already down, all right, we're gonna go back into the card. Leave, you're dead. Sorry, that's a full hold.
A full hold indeed, and a pretty sad-looking one as Weibo gets stopped before that first corner.
This is so sad. That is so dominant. I mean,
I
you
wonder,
didn't ban
like,
the Symmetra, so...
yeah, like, would that have been... I think that would have been better than the Sojourn.
I mean, at the end of the day...
Maybe it doesn't matter.
Well, I would like to think that it does matter. If you're not able to beat the Symmetra composition, banning the Symmetra out feels like something that is quite valuable. But maybe you feel like you would have had to save that later on in the series. Because Alcatia, they would have had Protect ban, both supports and damage at the same time. You can't do that, obviously. And so there is a case to be made that Weibo Gaming maybe felt like they need to save the Symmetra ban for later on in the series. When Alcatia, they have the advantage of map pick and are going to force a map featuring both the Symmetra and Lucio.
Oh, Johnny. Weibo got 1 kill.
I wasn't going to mention it, but yes, they only got 1 kill.
Oh, no. Oh, that's so sad. It's just hard because I think that, like, Alcatia, this is clearly their wheelhouse, and especially with a lot of the buildings that you can play around, I think it played to the teleporter strengths a lot more. Maybe Weibo right now, they're just going to have to kind of do their best. It might require a close hold just with how far this cart actually moved on their attack push. But Alcatia, they're not playing around. We saw the Reinhardt for fun, but they are going to lock into the same composition they used on the defense.
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly difficult. The Venture is actually going to be relatively helpful here because you need someone to put pressure onto this card, as you're seeing right now. The Burrow obviously going to be helpful in that regard. But Alcatia, they just want to put a little bit of the pressure onto the backline here, so they're keeping right across here. And the rotation is so difficult for Weibo Gaming. You just have to disperse, you just have to back off. You can't match this death ball. And now, you need to kind of restage here, but Alcatia have the high ground.
High ground control and free sightlines for Labda. Weibo used that Suzu so early, so you know that they're not afraid to use that utility, and maybe that's something Alcatia can try to take advantage of. Shy does find a nice pick onto Labda, but gets traded. But Qadsiah's able to follow up, and now that you've actually taken out 2 members of Alcatia, it should just be a reset here. Weibo with a 1 defensive win.
Yeah, but still though, Qadsiah going down is actually pretty huge because the respawns are so much faster from Alcatia here because the card barely moved on their attack. So now, Alcatia, they're just gonna walk up. There's no Zarya remotely close.
And they didn't get Ziad out of mech. They got really close to actually de-meching. And if they had done that, maybe that makes this defense just a little bit better for Weibo to buy some time. But at this point, this cart is inching ever closer to that final box, and Qadsiah's gonna have to play from this corner. Where are the ultimates here? Landon's gonna be the first one to be able to let it rip with that Kitsune Rush, as Yab might even have that mech, and Labda gets a pick onto leave. This is all going from bad to worse here as Alcatia continue to walk forward to get this win.
Yeah, Kitsune Rush dropped onto the cart.
Oh, they don't touch.
Even touch.
They don't touch, Johnny, they don't touch.
Rose, it was over.
They don't touch.
It was over, Rose. It
yeah,
doesn't
but
matter.
like, I know,
just
but...
don't touch, it doesn't matter. Like, let's go next month.
Oh, but you never wanted wanted to see it end like that. Come on! At least, like, you know, put up a... You wanted to see them put up a fight.
They were walking into a Kitsune Rush, Rose. There was no way good way to end that.
No, I know that, but... I didn't call it a C9. I just said that they didn't touch.
They didn't touch. Checkmate went 15-1, having a field day on this Metro there in the lobby. Labda popping off on the Cassidy. That was one-sided. That's tough. That's tough. We joked about it in the pre-show. Matt was having a bit of a giggle. I think Weibo Gaming were kind of wishing they were playing Crazy Raccoons right now instead of Alcatia. Because like at least they're like, okay, Crazy Raccoon, they're not gonna come out and play this Metro Brawl. We can match you in the dive. Let's play that. Let's go back to the Winston Tracer Sombra comps. Let's do that instead.
Yeah. It's hard because if Team CC, if Weibo Gaming takes a loss here, they're going to be playing Team CC in the lower bracket.
Oh, that would be a lot of fun actually.
It would end up being a fun match to watch, but that's also a matchup that we've seen play out already since both teams are from the CN region.
Yeah, and they play each other really closely actually. We were pretty impressed by Team CC. And as we're heading into map 3 here, we're kind of already talking about the Weibo Gaming's lower bracket match, which I think only speaks to the performance we've seen out of AQ so far. It's been quite dominant. Now, you need to reverse sweep this. If you're Weibo Gaming, you still have a Lucio ban, you still have a Symmetra ban, and you're guaranteed to get these out if you make it there, because obviously Alcatia can't protect ban both. So I'm not quite sure what the path is going to be here because you picked Shambali Monastery. There's no Dorado left. Maybe you want to deny something like a New Junk City and go to a map like Suravasa instead. There are no good choices here.
But I think you're right. Because I think it's just a multiple-pronged problem. You can pick the map and you can get a ban correct, but there are ways that Qadsiah have clearly dealt with these targeted bans towards their comps, and they've come in a variety of different forms. I mean, think about like the Lucio ban. You brand Lucio, okay, then they play Symmetra Juno, and that solves a lot of the speed problem.
Preferable. I would still take it over the Lucio.
Yeah, maybe, but I still think that it's going to be a hard match regardless. You don't just solve the problem by picking the map and getting one ban right. It's like you've got to ban two things, and you just don't have that.
I mean, honestly, it stems to the fact that Alcatia were able to win Ilios. I talked about it when the first map came around that it almost was a bit of a must-win map for Weibo Gaming to go up 1-0 in this series. And now they're very quickly in a 2-0 They were so close indeed. But this entire series, the outcome hinged upon that Ilios. And now you're picking Blizzard World instead with very wide map. So you're able to put Leave on something like a Tracer here and play the flanking game instead. Set up against the Symmetra comp quite efficiently. But still, it's gotta be one map at a time here, Rose. If you gotta win 3 in a row, that's really difficult.
Maybe you can go back to Winston. Maybe Winston end up putting
just think
Kai
back
on
the
Ash.
verticality. It's like you said. I think on a map like this, the D.Va is actually like so potent, and I don't think Winston is able to secure enough value on his own. I mean, it just doesn't have any staying power on that hero, and it's not like staging the dive is going to be really good anyway, because Alcatia, they play so well together. They're reliant on these Batiste heals, the Lucio, amp heals. And so you can, play the Winston. You're not going to be able to survive jumping into a brawl composition like that. If they were playing a greedy backline in this case, then it would be a hero you could rely on. It is just not Alcatia style, because Kellex loves to play more of the Lucio on the break.
Maybe that's where you ban
the Lucio?
one. Yeah, ban Lucio.
Any time like Preston.
Maybe play Hazard though. Gushue, bring out the Hazard. This would be the time. Play the Hazard against the Symmetra. Just try.
Just try, indeed. You gotta try something. They look a little bit defeated right now.
Winston ban too, as that comes in, as Weibo do ban the Symmetra, and so maybe that is why they feel just a little bit defeated. Now one of those tanks that you would have loved Gushue to be able to play in a map like this, not available to them. Checkmate, though, has been having a major day. I think this is just from the Shambali map, if I'm not mistaken.
15 eliminations. That's a lobby high for you right there. Just keeping across the map here. And I think that Checkmate has evolved into one of the best Symmetra players in the world. So we cannot forget the fact that this guy started off his career playing Reinhardt for Florida Mayhem. And later on, his actual role was more of the Genji, more of the Tracer.
Right.
He is really the jack of all trades when it comes to that damage role and able to play so many different heroes. Just so happens that he's been able to play the Symmetra at such a high level now.
And he was a huge reason for this Alcatia squad getting together at the start of the season. It was Checkmate, talked to Landon, and they said, let's build a team. And with Alcatia being able to give them the resources to do that, it's why they've been able to create this super team that has put up some numbers in EMEA.
Yeah, it's been really impressive how Junkbuck has been able to put this team together and coach them up. He talked in an interview with Overwatch TV, of course, about how this team has kind of just adapted Junkbuck's style at this point. They've played together for so long. They're really in sync with the vision that Junkbuck has for this team. And that has forced them to perform at such a ridiculously high level. Now, it's been a little bit disappointing for them because they obviously feel like they've been conquered by Twisted Minds as of recent. Now they kind of have to figure out a new style, but going into this tournament, they became a little bit more strict onto their practice and are taking things way more seriously because they were dominant for so long that they started to coast a little bit, is what they said in this interview. So now in this matchup, I think this is a team that is ridiculously locked in and are taking things extremely serious. This is the most important event of the year. And they felt like they have to step up the seriousness a little bit.
Right. This is the time to do it. You want to be the winner at the end of the day. And if this is going to be the tournament, it feels like, as we continue to say, the gap is closing and maybe this is the time for a team to take out the Koreans and actually win it all at the very end. Blizzard World, the third map in our series between Weibo Gaming and Alcatia, where Alcatia have won 2 maps. So one more win, they will win the series and move forward to be able to play versus Crazy Raccoon.
This is where we need to see some great signs out of Weibo Gaming. We questioned them a little bit going into this tournament after a group stage loss at the mid-season championship. And we had such high expectations for this team. A lot of fantastic Chinese legends on this roster. Xian and Xian, one of the most potent damage duos of all time. But they've kind of struggled in recent history to showcase their abilities and play to the highest of their potential. This is where you need them to start taking over, leaving a mark on this series.
I already like the looks that we've seen so far. Now that the Tracer has been fully unlocked here for Leave, we didn't have access to it in our first map of the series. I hope that this is something where we can get a lot of confidence from Weibo. Now on the defense first though will be Alcatia, and they're going to come out with the thing that's been working. No Symmetra since his ban banned out, but Checkmate can still show us some really good potency on that Tracer.
No, 100%. He's an extremely good Tracer. Now, there's a lot of superstar Tracer players in this tournament. You know, Lip, Sugar Free, Proper, Qadsiah, like they're all fantastic Tracer players. Do I think that Checkmate is on that level? That's incredibly difficult to say, but I don't want to downplay how good Checkmate is on this hero. And going up against Leave here, Leave's got to respect Checkmate. Yes, you banned out the Symmetra, you took away Alcatia's favorite composition, but this is still a map where Alcatia, if you don't respect them, they could full hold you.
I mean, this is still tough because you have to play Zarya now into a highly mobile composition, and I just wonder how that's going to work. Weibo, they do decide to at least then leave on a mission throughout the right-hand side, and that's going to leave Gushwei to try to take up the helm through the mid lane. But as you see Ziad with the boosters just able to kind of kite away from all of that damage, it's going to be slow going here as you wait for the Lucio to be able to amp it up and help you get into the fight. Landon is backed up, so stepped away from a pretty critical dynamite, so he's not going to take a whole lot of damage. But it's still this fight at a standstill until Mew falls. A trade though, as Labda is also taken out by Levo, who's been able to scurry into the back lines, and that's going to be a tick of progress for Weibo on this very first point. The cards are still falling the way of Alcatia though, and they're only going to get away with 33%.
Yeah, they're actually able to set up the angles quite nicely there. Weibo Gaming obviously playing a bit more static composition with the Ashe and the Zarya. They were a little bit clumped up, and then the rotation come through from Labda, who then, with a railgun shot, opened up the fight for Alcatia. Now, Shy over to this Sojourn. Felt like the Ashe was being punished a little bit too heavily, so So this is a more dynamic, mobile damage duo,
Ooh.
but that's not going to matter if you get headshot in the face.
No, Labda already going to win in that counterpart duel, and this is a great time for Ziad to go in even deeper.
No way.
Labda with another pick onto Qadsiah. I mean, this is where you see the confidence building for Alcatia. They know they don't even just have to play just on the high ground by the statue. They can go more far forward knowing that it's going to take time for Weibo to get set back up.
Yeah, it's almost like they have a couple of engaged scenarios here, because they could, in this choke, you know, we can use the defensive matrix, we can try to poke and prod and find an opening pick here early, but if that doesn't work, we're happy to fall back. You can see there's Ziad already going in. Landon has the Kitsune Rush if they want to maintain the positioning right here. Looks like they're going to fall back. They didn't like what they see, and so now you can go back towards the point here. You have support ultimates in hand. You just have to pick a moment here where you set up the Tracer for the dive.
Might be double support ultimates though, but the overclock from Labda first. The Monk going to throw down the Kitsune Rush, and that's going to push Alcatia back. Labda doesn't get much out of that overclock, except for just a little bit of a scare tactic as Weibo, they're able to make their way onto the point. The late rush though from Landon gets great sightlines onto the rest of the team as the pulse bomb lands on the Shy. It is going to be Kelix that finished up the damage, but Alcatia still come up big winners in this team fight.
Yeah, that's what I talked about. Forcing Monk to use the Kitsune Rush early meant that Alcatia were happy to just fall back into the point, double support ultimate, and that goes in their favor. Huge commit by Qadsiah, popping that Graviton Surge. Felt like he could use the fight, use the ultimate to win the fight. But now, dying late and Weibo Gaming, committing so many big ultimates with just a minute to go. I mean, this is looking like another full hold, really.
I think it will be. I mean, if Labda can continue to put up the pressure with just those continuous first picks, Checkmate as well, sitting all the way up front, would just be able to get some big damage. Maybe another pulse bomb in this fight.
Yeah, you are aware that Shy is coming up on this overclock. Taking a lot of damage early here. You can't get picked if you're Weibo Gaming. 20 seconds to go. And you see a leave actually on this flank. He wants to get the point touch as we're drawing close to an overtime scenario.
He's dead.
But he goes down. I mean, this is horrible news for Weibo Gaming. You have to work yourself up here. Qadsiah already low. Bubbles committed. This is Alcatia just swarming on top of your team. Who's going to touch the point?
Weibo's pressing the SP. They have had so much pressure from this Diva in the front that they have to pop the overclock now. They have not been able to make it to the point. Nobody touches. Mew unable to get there, and a full hold from Alcatia comes through.
Oh my god. This is that's not a good showing for Weibo Gaming. This is not what you wanted to see if you're a Weibo fan. Wow. That is tough. You get full hold on both Shambali Monastery and Blizzard World, and Checkmate looks like he's warming up in practice range.
It is a really one-sided affair. From Shambali Monastery now to Blizzard World, we have seen teams be able to take fuller holds on Blizzard World, but just based on how this Alcatia squad is playing, I just don't think that there's a bastion of hope there for the defense of Weibo.
Checkmate went 10-0 on the Tracer.
Oh,
he's just killing. I mean, it's ridiculously good push and pull from Alcatia, like I said, because they'll play around the choke point. Just like, okay, well, like, can we find an opportunity here? Can we combine a railgun shot from Labda with Checkmate blinking in and finding an early pick? No, okay, well, we're just gonna fall back into the point, try to do it again. Leave is not able to establish any kind of dominance in the Tracer matchup whatsoever. And because of that, Alcatia, they just have the positional advantage and able to rotate and find the picks required to not enable Weibo Gaming to get any kind of momentum whatsoever.
They're on the Ramatra. I wanted to see this a long time ago in the series. Even on Shambali Monastery, it felt like it would have been a good pick. But of course, we couldn't see it until now. And so for Weibo, I mean, is this going to be enough to actually dig their heels into the sand and stop this onslaught? Alcatia are moving so fast, be able to go take the underground on the left-hand side as Weibo have set up like the Duskwood.
So the good thing about playing the Ramatra is if you can only let the enemy team have 56% of the cap, the Ramatra is going to be really efficient at standing on the point. But as you can see, Ziad is already putting some point pressure here. And this is going to mean that Weibo Gaming will have to fall back. This is going to allow Alcatia to step up quite freely here. Just some poke initially here. I mean, they're not going to secure a tick here to begin with. Ziad relatively fine. But as you can see, just because of Ziad touching the point like that, now Alcatia, they have all the positional advantage that they need.
I mean, you said leave to actually contest the Diva, already forced out with the recall. And now that you're going to take this fight behind the point, You've got the Wooyoung sliding away because that it cannot be the first player to fall. If Mew goes down, the healing is going to be really limited on this Weibo squad. So Qadsiah able to open things up. Picks onto Labda and Monk. That's a great start, but you have 2 minutes and 45 seconds you still got to get through.
Yeah, there was a nice rotation away from Alcatia and a quick re-engage by Qadsiah with the Nemesis form, punching away, securing a couple of picks. So that's a good first fight win there. It took a lot of time for Alcatia to stage in that fight and get ready to commit in the first place. Checkmate already on this big flank though. So if Alcatia, they find a good railgun shot here, that's going to spell trouble.
I mean, that's going to be Checkmate coming back to the point just to keep up the pressure. The point presence is really palpable. With the D.Va and the Tracer being able to help pressure Weibo to get back there. Shy is dead. Mew's gonna have to use the Tidal Blast here, but would have liked to save it for Leaf to have this Pulse Bomb. Now that it's online, maybe this is the perfect time to use it, but Mew has to use it defensively, and that is not a good sign. As Qadsiah falls, Monk is next to follow, and Weibo Gaming is on Leaf to try to help pressure this point, but with the D.Va Bomb, there's no hope of touching. And now Qadsiah, 3-0 sweep on Weibo with another full hold on Blizzard World.
Clean as you like. Number 2 seed coming out from EMEA, but they look like they haven't dropped a beat. If you were worried about this team going into this tournament, I think this series proved that there's no reason to doubt, and they're looking like one of the top dogs in the entire tournament. Even when the Symmetra was taken away from them, they just look absolutely dominant with Checkmate on this Tracer. 12-0. He was setting up perfectly, and combined with Labda's incredible first picks on that Sojourn to secure a relatively easy 3-0 here for Alcatia.
I thought after that first round on Ilios that we would have had a dogfight. It would have been a lot closer than that, but when the D.Va was back available to Alcatia, it just felt like, oh no, never mind, lights out. Ziad can continue to put up these performances on the D.Va. The big Tracer just absolutely zooming around the map and just making it so difficult for Weibo to actually find a piece de resistance. Just nothing there from that squad could have really worked, and I think that is really stressful for the rest of the tournament. Knowing that you've got Team CC next in the lower bracket, and you might have to face Alcatia again at some point, or some of these other big EMEA super teams. I want to see more from this squad. They're definitely a fan favorite. Like, your heart is with them.
They are. They're legends of the sport. I mean, they've been a fan favorite for many, many years now. Going back to the Hangzhou Spark days when they tried so desperately to win one of those major tournaments. They just haven't been able to. And this is just not the performance you wanted to see against a team like Team CC, like you talked about. This is a team they're obviously very familiar with, both teams coming out of the Chinese region. They've been the top dogs in that matchup historically. But I would say we saw Team CC yesterday. They're on the come up. They made it close against T1. And so if you're Weibo Gaming here, you gotta be worried. You gotta be real worried about the fact that you couldn't secure a single map win or even get a point on 2 of those maps.
But I do wonder if some of it is it just that Weibo fell really short, or is it that Alcatia is just that strong? This is a team that yesterday just had an absolutely dominant performance. I think that 2-0 versus EK was just a really good bright spot for them in terms of, well, yeah, okay, we're like we've got our stuff, we've got it all sorted out heading into the rest of the tournament, and maybe that means that it's going to work there. But we do have an interview with Danny on standby with Ziad, so let's hear how Ziad is feeling after that match.
Thank you so much, Nekra. Yes, I am here joined by Ziad. I mean, fantastic job. I mean, you guys are kind of on a roll. You guys won 2-0 yesterday, and you guys did beat Weibo Gaming today 3-0. Again, fantastic job, Ziad. I want to ask, yesterday, your teammate Landon, was like, I think we got the win. We got the win. And then I saw online on X, actually, on social media, Weibo replied, they're like, oh, we can't wait to see you. And then it was a 3-0. How do you feel?
I mean, it was easy match. We protected them good. I also like the hard maps like Ilios, they do D.Va ban. We still shit on them, So yeah, It was easy game.
It was easy game. It was an easy game. And like I said, you guys are on a roll. You guys are Alcatia. You guys are killing it right now. Next match, I feel like it might be a little bit more harder than today. I mean, you guys are going to be facing off against Crazy Raccoon. Ziad, how are you feeling going into that match? Are you confident?
Yeah, I have come with it, but I really think it's not going to be like an easy match like today. So we will try our best. Yeah, we will try to win.
Okay. All right. I love the sound of that. Ziad, that is it for the interview. Thank you so much. Let's head back to the desk.